I set the table with a care that felt almost ceremonial, placing each porcelain plate exactly where it belonged. The dishes had once belonged to my late wife, Irene. White with soft pearl edges, delicate but enduring, just like she had been. Only two pieces had chipped over the years, and I kept those tucked away in the cabinet, unable to throw them out. Tonight, I wanted everything to look perfect. I wanted this dinner to feel like family again. The late afternoon light filtered through the pale curtains Irene had chosen so long ago. They softened every corner of the room, turning the walls gold, turning the air almost gentle. I had cleaned all morning, polished the table, brushed the old carpet, and simmered a stew I knew my daughter loved. Clara used to talk about it all the time. "Dad, nobody makes this like Mom did." "You almost get close, though." She would laugh, teasing but warm. That was a long time ago. I set down the name cards I had written by hand. I knew no one used name cards in a modest dining room like mine, but I wanted the gesture to feel thoughtful. Clara to my right, Adrian beside her, his parents across from them. And at the head of the table I kept my place, though I suspected it no longer meant anything. They arrived 20 minutes late. The door swung open without a knock, as if my home were a lobby they could stroll into. Adrian stepped in first, tall and polished, carrying the permanent smirk of a man who believed fortune bent toward him naturally. Clara followed, eyes glued to her phone, barely offering me a smile. Then came Adrian's parents. Camilla wore a silk blouse that likely cost more than my monthly grocery budget. Stefan, her husband, wore a navy blazer with gold buttons that gleamed under the light. They looked around as though entering a time capsule. "Dad," Clara said, forcing cheer. "We made it. Of course. Thank you all for coming. Dinner is ready." Adrian brushed past me with a dismissive tap on my shoulder. He shook my hand without looking up. "Thanks for hosting." He said it like a duty rather than gratitude. Camilla offered a thin smile that didn't touch her eyes. Stefan nodded once, surveying the room slowly, as if assessing the price of every outdated object. I gestured for them to sit. Clara slipped into her seat, one leg crossed over the other, posture bending instinctively toward Adrian. He angled his chair away from me, facing his parents instead. The formation cut me out of the circle before I even had a chance to speak. I brought out the stew in Irene's old serving pot, steam rising gently from its surface. The aroma filled the room, but no one commented. No one noticed. "How quaint," Camilla murmured, her fingers grazing the curtain fabric. "These must be what, 15 years old?" 28, I said. Irene picked them. Camilla blinked, surprised only by the number. Adrian reached for the wine I had bought specifically for tonight, a vintage I shouldn't have splurged on. He examined the label, his eyebrows raising. "Well, at least you picked something decent." He poured for his mother, then his father, then Clara. The bottle never reached my side of the table. Clara saw. She said nothing. The conversation drifted to their plans, their purchases, their renovations. Stefan described the new marble island in their kitchen. Camilla listed the resorts they had visited recently. Clara nodded along, smiling in ways she hadn't smiled at me in years. I tried praising Clara's recent promotion, but she waved it off with a shrug. "Networking," she said, tapping her phone. "You know how it works." Yes, I did know how it worked. I had spent hours calling former colleagues, asking favors, guiding her application into the right hands. But she would never know that now. She had already rewritten the memory. Then Adrian leaned back, his chair scraping across the floor. "Big announcement," he said, raising his glass. "We are going on a family vacation. A full week. Aurora Reef Island. Private beaches. 5-star. Everything you can imagine." I lifted my fork halfway. "That sounds wonderful. Which dates?" "We leave on the 18th, Camilla said proudly. The flights were expensive, but worth it. Adrian grinned. There were only enough tickets for the 4 of us. Me, Clara, Mom, and Dad. The words struck with the weight of something premeditated. 4 people, not 5. "I can buy my own ticket," I said softly. "I would love to join all of you." Clara finally looked up. Her eyes were distant, cool. "Dad, Adrian thinks we need a little space, you know? Time for just us. Just us. Except me." I wiped my hands on my napkin, though they weren't wet. "Of course," I said. "I understand." No one protested when I stood. No one asked where I was going. I walked to the kitchen, passing the warm scent of the stew, now growing cold. I did not return with dessert. I went upstairs instead, closing the door behind me, and sat on the edge of my bed. Below me, their laughter echoed through my home. Somewhere in that moment, something inside me locked into place. It was the sound of a door closing. Not the bedroom door. Something deeper. Something final. Sleep did not come that night. My house, usually so still after sunset, felt strangely alive with echoes of voices I could not silence. Clara's laugh drifted up the staircase. Adrian's deep, self-satisfied tone answered her. Chairs scraped, glasses clinked. The rhythm of a celebration I was not invited into pulsed through the floorboards, like a reminder of everything I had lost. Close to dawn, when the thin gray light began slipping through the curtains, I rose from the bed. My feet carried me almost unconsciously toward the hallway. I paused at the top of the stairs. Their voices floated upward, low but distinct. I held my breath, leaning slightly toward the banister. "He will agree to sell," Adrian said, confidence dripping from every word. "We just have to present it the right way. Make him think we are helping him. Helping me." The irony tasted bitter. Clara yawned softly. "He is stubborn. You know he hates change. But if we explain he does not need such a big place, maybe we can get through to him." "Maybe?" Adrian chuckled. "Come on, Clara. He is predictable. He is sentimental. He will fold. You said it yourself, he has nothing going on in his life. Once he signs, we can get the renovation started before winter." Before winter. As if the timeline were already planned. My hand tightened on the banister. Clara spoke again, her voice quieter. "We need the equity. The condo we want will not stay on the market forever. And the loan payments. You know how tight things are." Adrian cut her off sharply. "I know. That is why your father will understand. He always does. He helped with the wedding, the car, the business loan, the credit cards, everything. He will help again. He will not even realize we are directing him. He will think it is his idea, just like always." I closed my eyes as a pressure bloomed behind them. A familiar ache. A father's ache. Clara had once held my fingers with her tiny hand after Irene's funeral, promising never to leave me alone. Promising she would always be my little girl. Yet here she was, planning to strip away the last piece of my life that still felt like home. Their conversation drifted into silence as they began preparing to leave for the day. I stepped back into my room before they could see me, closing the door quietly. But the words kept circling, carving into me. Pretend to help him. Make him think it is his idea. I sat at my desk and stared at the blank wall for a long moment, before reaching for the small silver key hanging on a chain behind a framed picture of Irene. My hands did not tremble as I unlocked the lower drawer. Inside rested a black notebook, a portable drive, and a set of documents bound with a leather strap. My real life. The one Clara never cared to ask about. I turned on my computer and entered the passcode that no one but me knew. The screen lit up with spreadsheets, contracts, digital ledgers, and property records. Row after row, year after year of meticulous work. It had started quietly after Irene died. Grief had hollowed me out, and I filled that hollow with purpose. I bought my first small lodge with the last savings I had, renovated it myself, managed every booking, remodeled rooms, learned hospitality with raw determination. Then came a second property, a coastal guest house purchased in the middle of a market slump. Then a boutique inn tucked behind pine forests. Then a lakeside retreat that had been abandoned for years before I revived it. Clara had never known, not because I wanted to hide it, but because she never asked. I opened the asset summary. The total market value stared back at me. 7 figures, comfortably. Quiet wealth, hard-earned, protected under a private trust I had created long ago, after realizing how quickly life could be taken. I clicked on a folder named Family Support, my record of every dollar I had given her and Adrian, wedding costs, down payment on their car, unexpected expenses, the loan for Adrian's failed startup, 12 years of giving, totaling far more than I wanted to admit. $72,400, almost all of it unacknowledged. A dull pain spread across my chest. Not heartbreak. Something colder. A recognition. I switched tabs and typed the resort's name into the search bar. Aurora Cove Retreat. A photograph of turquoise water and sunlit decks appeared immediately. Then a small line of text that changed the air around me. For sale. Owner motivated. Closing possible in under 30 days. I leaned back slowly, pressing my palms together. It felt as though the room had tilted. I imagined Adrian and Clara lounging on those beaches, laughing together about my absence, using my help to escape me. And then I imagined myself there first, not as a guest, but as the owner. The idea settled into my mind with perfect clarity, as though it had always been waiting for me to find it. If they wanted to take my home, I would buy theirs. If they wanted a vacation away from me, I would make sure they felt every mile of distance they had created, not with anger, with precision, with purpose, with truth, the kind of truth they had never expected me to possess. I stayed seated in front of the glowing screen for a long time, watching the resort listing as if it were something alive. The shimmering blue water, the soft curve of the shoreline, the wooden boardwalks leading toward rooms with glass balconies. Aurora Cove Retreat, a place my daughter believed represented luxury, distance, escape, a place she thought I was unworthy of. But the words for sale pulsed on the page like an invitation. No, not an invitation, an opening. I leaned back in my chair. My mind had already begun assembling possibilities the way it used to when Irene and I faced a crisis. Step by step, consequence by consequence. I was never impulsive, and I would not become impulsive now. But what they had said, what they had planned, required me to respond with more than disappointment. They wanted independence from me. They wanted freedom from my presence. They wanted to take what was mine and reshape it into theirs. So I would give them independence. I would give them distance. And I would do it on my terms. I picked up my phone, hesitating only long enough to steady my breath. Then I called the only lawyer who had never judged me for choosing a quiet life, Martin Caldwell. He answered on the second ring, his voice groggy but polite. "This is early," Martin murmured. "Is everything all right?" "I need an emergency consultation. Today." There was a pause. "This isn't like you." "No," I said. "It isn't." His tone shifted. "Come to my office in 2 hours." I hung up and stood. The sunlight was starting to seep through the curtains, warming the wooden floor. Downstairs, I heard movement. Clara and Adrian getting ready to leave. I waited until I heard the front door open and slam shut before going down the stairs. The kitchen was a mess of plates and empty wine glasses. They had enjoyed themselves. I washed each dish quietly, not because I had to, but because order gave me clarity. By the time the last plate dried, I knew there was no turning back. I showered, dressed, and drove toward Martin's office. The city's early morning haze cast the buildings in a silver glow. As I walked inside, Martin rose from behind his desk. Curiosity etched across his features. "You look like a man carrying too much," he said. I sat down and placed the resort listing in front of him. "I want to buy it," I told him. "Immediately." He blinked slowly. "A resort? That is not a small move." "I know." He studied my face for a moment. "This is personal, isn't it?" "Deeply." He exhaled through his nose, then nodded. "All right. If we're doing this, we do it properly. What is your timeline?" "Before the 18th. Martin's pen slipped from his fingers and hit the desk. "That is 10 days from now. You cannot possibly—" "I can," I said quietly. "And I will. I have the liquidity. I have documents prepared under the trust. I have the capacity to close fast. I need you to help me make it happen." He picked up the pen again, tapping it against the table. The old owner would need to be desperate. The agent cooperative, the bank extremely flexible, and the due diligence. "I will assume the risk," I interrupted. "All of it." Another long pause. Martin folded his hands. "Tell me why." "Because they are planning to take my home. Because they think I am weak. Because they think they know me. Because they believe I have nothing left. And because I am done letting them decide who I am." Something in Martin's gaze softened. He nodded slowly. "All right. Then I will help you." The next several hours blurred into a rapid succession of signatures, verifications, financial statements, and legal authorizations. Martin called people I had never heard of. They called him back. Documents printed so fast, the machine jammed twice. At one moment, a banker demanded a video call to confirm my identity and intent. I accepted immediately. She examined me through the screen with sharp eyes. "Mr. Hayes, this is an aggressive timeline. You are fully aware of the liability?" "I am." She nodded once. "Then I will expedite the review." By late afternoon, Martin handed me a thick folder of preliminary approvals. "You might actually pull this off," he said, half amazed, half concerned. "I will," I replied, placing the folder under my arm. "And tomorrow, I fly to the island." Before leaving his office, I stopped at the door. Martin, one more thing. He raised his eyebrows. Prepare a separate set of documents. I want the house transferred into a fully protected trust, effective immediately. His expression sharpened. So they cannot touch it. Exactly. He nodded. I will prioritize it. Driving home, the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the road. The world felt strangely balanced, as if the weight I carried had shifted onto rails guiding me forward, steady and unbreakable. When I arrived home, the silence was thick. No laughter, no footsteps. Just the quiet hum of the refrigerator. The curtains swayed faintly as a breeze slipped through a small crack in the windowsill. I sat at my desk one more time and reopened the resort listing. The turquoise water glimmered against the screen. In 10 days, they would set foot on that island. But I would be there first, and they would discover that the man they dismissed, the man they underestimated, was the man who now owned the ground beneath their feet. Not with anger, not with cruelty, but with absolute, undeniable truth. The kind of truth they had spent years refusing to see. The plane touched down in late afternoon heat, the kind that pressed against the windows before the doors even opened. I stepped out onto the mobile stairway, feeling the heavy, humid air settle on my skin. The small island airport buzzed with sunburned travelers, honeymooning couples, and families wearing bright tourist shirts. I moved among them quietly, carrying only a single briefcase. Outside, taxis lined the curb beneath awnings that rattled in the wind. A driver waved me over, an older man with kind eyes and a voice smooth from years of island stories. Where to, sir? Aurora Cove Retreat, I answered. He whistled softly as he loaded my bag. Beautiful spot. Needs work, but beautiful bones. Beautiful bones. I repeated the phrase in my head. It felt right. We drove along winding coastal roads, past stretches of glittering water and pockets of thick jungle, colorful storefronts, tiny cafes, and quiet fishing boats dotted the landscape. The sun hovered just above the horizon, bathing everything in molten gold. Eventually, the taxi turned down a private road with a faded wooden sign that read, Aurora Cove Retreat. When we pulled into the circular driveway, I saw the resort up close for the first time. White stucco walls cracked at the corners, wooden shutters chipped from storms. A once grand fountain stood in the center, its stone birds dry and silent. Yet despite the wear, something about the place felt untouched, hidden, waiting. The driver helped me with my bag. You doing business here? Something like that, I said. I stepped into the open-air lobby. Ceiling fans spun lazily, casting wide shadows across tiled floors that showed decades of footsteps. A woman with neatly tied dark hair and sharp eyes approached from behind the reception desk. Good afternoon. Welcome to Aurora Cove. My name is Elena. How may I assist you? Her posture was straight, her gaze steady. She wasn't a clerk. She was someone who ran things quietly and effectively. I'm here to meet Mr. Hale. He's expecting me. Recognition flickered in her eyes. Ah. You must be Mr. Hayes. He's waiting in his office. Follow me. She led me down a hallway lined with framed photographs of the resort during its early years. Full occupancy, bright paint, happy guests, memories of what the place once was. Leonard Hale's office sat at the end of the hall. He stood as we entered. A man in his late 50s, shoulders slumped, his tie loose, his eyes carrying the weight of sleepless weeks. Mr. Hayes, thank you for coming. He extended a hand that trembled slightly. I appreciate your urgency. We sat, Papers were already stacked on his desk, organized but tired. He cleared his throat. Before anything else, let's walk the property. You should know what you're buying. The tour showed everything photographs couldn't. The pool tiles were chipped. The wooden boardwalk needed reinforcement. Some rooms had damp spots along the ceiling edges. Others needed new locks, new lights, new life. But each imperfection felt like potential, not ruin. We reached a cliffside overlook where the sea stretched endlessly, waves crashing against dark rocks below. Leonard leaned on the railing, exhaling slowly. My wife and I built this place 20 years ago. She dreamed it would be our legacy. But the storms, the taxes, the competition. He paused. And when she passed, well, my heart wasn't in it anymore. His voice broke briefly before he composed himself. You're offering the one thing I can no longer give this resort. A future. We returned to his office where Elena waited, tablet in hand. She had the air of someone who anticipated problems before they arrived. Before we proceed, she said, I need to ask. Why now? Why this resort? I met her eyes. It's personal, but not in a way that affects my commitment. I intend to restore Aurora Cove, not dismantle it. She held my gaze for a moment longer, then nodded. That's all I needed to know. The negotiation began. Leonard named his price. I lowered it by a number that respected the property's worth, but acknowledged the urgency. He hesitated. I countered. He paced the room, rubbing his temples. Finally, he stopped, defeated, but relieved. Your offer is fair. More than fair, given my situation. He sank into his chair. All right, Mr. Hayes. Let's do it. For the next several hours, lawyers joined us by video call. Documents were drafted, reviewed, corrected. A tropical storm rolled in, rain pelting the office windows, wind howling against the shutters. The lights flickered twice but held on. By the time the storm passed, everything was ready. Leonard picked up the final contract. His hands shook as he signed. When he slid the pen toward me, his eyes glistened. Take care of this place, he whispered. I signed without hesitation. By midnight, Aurora Cove Retreat officially belonged to me. Leonard handed me a ring of keys, each one clinking like a small promise. As he left the office for the last time, Elena remained standing beside me. Congratulations, she said, and welcome. There's a lot to fix, but it can be done. I looked around the dimly lit office, the storm-swept resort outside, the waves crashing like distant applause. Yes, I said, it can. And tomorrow, the real work begins. The next morning arrived harsh and bright, sunlight reflecting off the damp pathways where the storm had passed. I woke early and stepped onto the balcony of the temporary suite Elena had arranged for me. The ocean was calm again, spreading out like a silver sheet beneath the rising sun. Tropical birds circled overhead. The air smelled of salt and hibiscus. It should have been peaceful, but peace was not why I was here. At 8 sharp, I met Elena in the small conference room beside the lobby. She already had folders neatly arranged across the table. 2 housekeepers and the head of maintenance sat nearby, waiting. Marcus, the resort's security coordinator, stood at the back, arms crossed, but attentive. Elena tapped her tablet, bringing up the internal system. We have a lot to review. Much of the property hasn't been updated in 6 years. Staff is stretched thin. Vendors are overdue for payment. The previous owner was trying, but exhaustion caught up to him. I nodded. Then let's fix it. One by one, we tackled the issues. The boardwalk needed reinforcement. The pool tiles required repair. Half of the air conditioning units needed servicing. I approved every request without flinching. Money was no longer the problem. Precision was. Then Elena opened a separate folder. Guest reservations. This is where your instructions begin. Yes. Start there. She projected a screen showing upcoming arrivals. I scanned each line until I found what I was looking for. The Morgan party was scheduled for the 18th through the 25th. 4 guests. Oceanfront penthouse suite. Spa package. Premium dining. Just like in the story Clara and Adrian had woven, their grand vacation depended on flawless indulgence. Elena folded her hands. You want them reassigned? Correct. She tapped her tablet. Their new rooms will be 12 and 14. Standard second floor, partial parking lot view. Make sure it looks procedural, I said. Not personal. Use the wording we discussed. Transitional adjustments due to ownership change. And pricing? She asked. Raise all service fees by 35% island-wide. Spa, room service, restaurant, late checkout, beach rentals, everything. But do not apply anything illegally or inconsistently. I want this to withstand any scrutiny. Elena studied me. You're building a maze for them. I met her gaze. No, they built it. I'm just turning on the lights. She didn't argue. Instead, she handed me a sheet of internal guidelines drafted overnight. Every detail aligned with my plan. She was thorough, efficient, professional. I was grateful for her, though I never said it. Next came the discovery of internal theft. While reviewing financials, Elena frowned at a ledger. The numbers on this vendor line don't match the receipts. They're off by more than 5,000. When did this start? I asked. 3 months ago. Who handles vendor payments? She hesitated. Samuel. He's the late-night front desk clerk. Young, ambitious, but I've had concerns. Bring him in after your shift tonight, I said. If he confesses, we document it and give him a chance to repay quietly. If he denies it, we involve authorities. You're firm, she said quietly. I'm fair, I corrected. Leonard let too many things slide. That's why the place decayed. Structure builds stability. We moved through the rest of the agenda with crisp efficiency. By noon, the resort had more progress planned in a single morning than it had in the past 2 years. I walked the grounds afterward, noting each corner that needed care. Broken lanterns, faded umbrellas, loose stones on the pathway. It felt like patching a wounded creature, something still alive but breathless. As I made my way toward the pool, a staff member jogged up. Sir, the supply shipment you approved has arrived early. Do you want to inspect it? Yes. Bring it to the service dock. For the next 2 hours, we checked linens, new pool filters, upgraded bath amenities, and a set of tools for maintenance. Every detail mattered, not only for the looming moment with my family, but for the future guests who deserved a restored Aurora Cove. By late afternoon, Elena approached with an update. All reservation changes have been sent. The Morgan party received their notification email this morning. Excellent. We also completed the pricing updates. Everything is posted publicly. No surprises that aren't documented. Good. She hesitated. There's something else. A call came to the lobby earlier. A woman asked if the resort had undergone new management. She didn't give her name. My pulse sharpened. Clara. She must have noticed the email. Did she ask anything else? No. She hung up quickly. I took a slow breath. She was curious, but not enough to back out. They were committed. Their tickets were non-refundable. Their plans were cemented. And they had no idea what awaited them. As dusk settled across the resort, the ocean glowed lavender. Staff finished their shifts. Guests drifted toward the bar for sunset drinks. The world looked deceptively serene. Back in my office, I reviewed the finalized documents Elena had prepared. Room assignments, staff protocols, maintenance schedules, legal outlines. Everything aligned perfectly. A soft knock tapped on the door. Elena stepped in. "We're ready," she said. So was I. In 3 days, my family would walk into this lobby believing they were entering paradise. Instead, they would step directly into the truth they had spent years ignoring, and this time, they would not be able to look away. The 18th arrived wrapped in a quiet tension that clung to the air like humidity. I woke before dawn, unable to stand still, walking the length of my office several times before finally stopping in front of the window. Outside, early sunlight spread across the courtyard, casting long shadows from the palm trees. Staff moved with purposeful steps, preparing the resort for incoming guests. But I was preparing for something else entirely. By noon, everything was in place. Elena had confirmed that the Morgan party's flight landed on time. Their taxi had been arranged through a third-party service, which meant they would arrive without warning, without the protection of their expectations. I instructed Marcus to remain near the entrance, calm but present, not to intimidate, just to let the moment unfold as it should. At 2:47, a taxi rolled onto the circular driveway. Yellow dust lifted behind it as the brakes eased. I watched from the hallway beside the office, half hidden but positioned exactly where I needed to be. My pulse beat with a cold steadiness. Not fear, not anger, just readiness. The first door opened. Clara stepped out, wearing a white sundress and sunglasses perched atop her head. She shaded her eyes against the sun as she looked at the resort facade. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile she used to wear during family trips when she was still a child, before life taught her how to choose convenience over loyalty. Adrian followed, tall and confident, stretching his arms like he owned the island itself. Camilla and Stefan climbed out next, already taking photos, commenting on the ocean breeze and the palm trees swaying above them. They pulled their luggage from the trunk and approached the resort entrance with the assurance of people expecting pampering. I stepped forward from the hallway at the same moment they entered the lobby. Clara froze first. It happened in an instant, her expression shifting from brightness to disbelief, then to a stunned blankness. "Dad?" Her voice barely carried the word. Adrian turned sharply. The moment he saw me, a frown carved across his face. "Oh, for God's sake. You followed us?" I looked at him evenly. "No." Camilla clucked her tongue, eyes widening with exaggerated indignation. "This is highly inappropriate." Stefan muttered something about boundaries. I remained still, calm, unmoved. Adrian stepped closer, jaw clenching. "What are you doing here?" "Working," I replied. That made him laugh, loud enough for the guests lounging in the lobby to glance over. "Working? Here? At our resort?" Before I could answer, Elena stepped forward from behind the reception desk. Her posture was professional, composed. Her voice carried clearly across the lobby. "Mr. Hayes is not working here. He is the owner of Aurora Cove Retreat." Silence swallowed the room. Every head in the lobby turned. Clara's mouth parted, forming a small, shocked O. Camilla's hand rose to her chest. Stefan's camera slipped slightly in his fingers. But Adrian simply stood there, blinking twice as though trying to force her words to rearrange themselves into something else. Owner, he repeated. Owner? Correct, Elena said, her tone unwavering. As of 3 days ago. Adrian looked at me with a mixture of disbelief and fury. You bought this place? This resort? I met his stare with perfect calm. Yes. Why? His voice cracked with anger. Why would you do that? Because it was for sale. He took a step forward, finger pointed. You're doing this to interfere, to embarrass us. This is harassment. Elena stepped between us before I needed to respond. Sir, she said to Adrian, your behavior is causing a disturbance. If you continue, we will have to ask you to step aside so we may complete your check-in. Check-in? Camilla sputtered. Not before we straighten this out. Stefan unfolded his arms. We reserved the penthouse suite. Elena nodded professionally. And your reservation was updated during the ownership transition. You were notified by email within the required time frame. Adrian pulled out his phone, swiping angrily. A moment later, his face paled. He found the email. This must be some kind of mistake. There is no mistake, Elena said calmly. Your stay has been adjusted. Your new rooms are 12 and 14. Standard level, 2nd floor. Standard? Clara finally spoke, voice cracking. But we booked. She stopped. She knew the answer. She read it in Elena's eyes. And in mine. This is outrageous, Adrian snapped. Fix it, now. I stood silent, watching, witnessing. Elena remained composed. Our policies are clearly stated. All procedures were followed legally. Your rooms are ready. Shall I have staff assist with your luggage? Clara looked at me then, not the angry look Adrian wore, not the proud indignation of Camilla, but something softer, something hurt, something questioning. Dad. Why? It was a fragile whisper, one I had waited years to hear. I answered simply. Because choices have consequences. She swallowed hard, but Adrian's anger surged again, drowning her silence. You'll pay for this, he hissed. Perhaps, I replied softly, but not today. I stepped aside and let them walk past me, up the stairs, into their downgraded rooms, into the beginning of a truth they had never wanted to face. Behind them, the ocean breeze carried the faintest hint of a storm. The first 24 hours unraveled them faster than I expected. Clara's family had barely settled into rooms 12 and 14 before the complaints began. The parking lot view offended Camilla so deeply that she spent 10 minutes narrating her distress to anyone who would listen. Stefan paced the small balcony, muttering about bait and switch tactics. Adrian slammed drawers and switched the air conditioner on and off, as if punishing it would improve anything. By the end of the first night, all 4 of them had marched down to the front desk to demand a suite upgrade. Elena listened patiently, her hands folded over the counter. Unfortunately, all premium rooms are fully booked. Standard accommodations are the only option available. You expect us to accept this? Adrian hissed. It is not a matter of expectation, sir. It is simply the reality of your reservation after the ownership transition. Adrian turned, scanning the lobby for me, but I had already slipped into my office. I watched through the security feed as he dragged Clara back to the elevator, berating her for not paying attention to emails better. She followed silently, like a shadow trailing the anger that consumed him. The next morning, inconvenience multiplied. At exactly 6:13, a maintenance crew began repairing the pipes behind their hallway. The rattling echoed through the walls, loud enough that guests 2 rooms away stepped into the hallway in confusion. It was necessary work, fully documented, and perfectly timed. Clara appeared at the front desk in an oversized sweater, eyes half open. "Is this going to go on all day?" "Until 7:15, Elena replied. "Then the pipes will settle." Clara rubbed her forehead. "It feels like the walls are shaking." "I'm very sorry, Ms. Morgan. Maintenance work has to be completed before peak hours." She walked away slowly, shoulders hunched. I recognized the posture. It was the one she used as a child when she realized she'd trusted the wrong friend. By midday, the restaurant had become their next battleground. Adrian ordered lunch and spent the entire wait timing the service on his phone. When the plates arrived at 42 minutes instead of 25, he waved the server over as if summoning a subordinate. "This is unacceptable. Do you people understand customer service?" The server apologized politely and explained that the kitchen was understaffed due to renovation shifts. Adrian turned toward the bar where I sat reviewing contracts. His eyes burned with accusation. "You're doing this on purpose," he spat. I raised my glass without looking up. "If you are unsatisfied, you may file a formal complaint with management." He stormed off, muttering curses loud enough for other guests to hear. But the reaction was not what he expected. 2 older travelers rolled their eyes at him. A couple nearby whispered something, shaking their heads. A mother with a toddler pulled her child closer, as if shielding him from Adrian's temper. His entitlement was on display, and for the first time, people noticed. By the second evening, the cracks in their unity began to show. Stefan and Camilla sat at the bar alone, whispering heatedly. Their faces were drawn, their shoulders sagging, their once pristine vacation outfits crinkled from humidity and stress. Clara wandered the grounds by herself, tracing the stone pathways, staring out at the ocean as though trying to gather her breath. She paused at the boardwalk, leaning on the railing, her hair blowing back in the wind. That was when I approached. She didn't notice me at first, not until I stepped beside her. "Dad," she said softly, not turning her head. "Why are you doing this?" I watched the waves. "You wished for a break from me to... I'm giving you one. Not like this." Her voice cracked. "You're making it feel like we're being punished." "No." I shook my head. "I am simply not protecting you from the consequences of choices you made." She closed her eyes. "Adrian said this would be good for us. He said family time would reset things. He said a lot of things," I finished. Her grip tightened on the railing. "Dad, I didn't know he planned to pressure you about the house, but you agreed to it." She flinched. I thought it would help us. I didn't think about what it would cost you. I didn't think about what it meant." That was the truth. The painful, fragile truth. Before I could respond, a shout echoed from behind us. Adrian barreled down the path, red-faced and frantic, holding 2 printed documents. "The Wi-Fi!" he yelled. "It keeps disconnecting." "I paid for high-speed access. This is fraud." I stepped back, letting him confront the air instead of me. Elena appeared almost instantly, calm and poised. "Sir, we have contacted the service provider. Island signals can be inconsistent, but the lobby connection is stable." "Lobby?" Adrian barked. "I'm supposed to work in a lobby?" If you require immediate stability, yes. He threw the papers onto the boardwalk, pages scattering like startled birds. Clara picked them up quietly. By the fourth day, their frustration turned into fractured silence. They didn't eat meals together anymore. They barely spoke. They moved through the resort like four separate ghosts drifting through heat and disappointment. Negative reviews appeared online that evening. Harsh, emotional, exaggerated. But Elena handled them with flawless professionalism. Aurora Cove Resort acknowledges guest concerns and is undergoing improvements under new ownership. Her responses were calm, reasonable, balanced. Their anger only made them look irrational. On the fifth morning, I found Clara sitting alone in the lobby at sunrise, staring at nothing. When she finally lifted her head, her eyes were wet. "Dad," she whispered, "I think I made a terrible mistake." It was the first honest thing she had said to me in years, and it was only the beginning. Checkout day arrived with an eerie stillness. The sun hung hazy above the horizon, veiled in thin clouds that dulled the usually vibrant colors of the island. It felt as if even nature had paused, waiting. I watched from my office window as Clara and her family descended the stairs with their luggage. They moved slowly, defeated. Adrian's shirt was wrinkled, his hair unkempt. Camilla's sunglasses could not hide the exhaustion carved into her face. Stefan walked slightly behind them, quieter than he had been all the trip, the bravado drained from him. Clara clutched her phone but didn't look at it. Instead, she looked at the floor, as if each step weighed more than the last. When they reached the reception desk, Elena greeted them with the same steady professionalism that had carried us through the week. "Good morning. Checking out?" Adrian slammed the key cards onto the counter. "Yes. Now." "Of course," Elena replied. "Let me pull up your final statement." She typed with slow precision. The printer hummed, spitting out several pages of detailed charges. Elena placed the itemized bill face down in front of Adrian, sliding it forward with both hands. He snatched it and flipped it over. His reaction happened in stages. First confusion, then disbelief, then color draining from his face, and finally, fury. $4,200, he choked. "This is impossible." Clara leaned closer, her breath catching as she scanned the list. Every meal, every service fee, every adjusted charge, each one legitimate, each one unavoidable. Elena's tone remained calm. "Your stay reflects our current pricing structure, which was publicly updated before your arrival. All services you used have been properly recorded." "This is theft," Adrian spat. "We will not pay this." Elena folded her hands. "Payment is required at checkout. If you refuse, the charges will be transferred to collections along with additional penalties." Camilla gasped. "Collections?" Stefan rubbed his forehead. "This cannot be legal." "It is," Elena replied gently. "Everything is documented." Adrian pulled out his credit card, hands trembling with rage. He inserted it into the terminal. Declined. He tried again, harder this time, as if force would make a difference. The machine beeped the same response. Declined. Stefan stepped forward. "Try mine." His card produced the same harsh beep. Camilla stiffened, clutching her purse. "Don't look at me. I told you this trip was too expensive." Clara, trembling, reached into her own bag. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. "I'll do it." Adrian turned on her sharply. "No. Absolutely not." Clara didn't look at him. She placed her card into the terminal. The screen processed slowly, painfully. Approved. When the receipt printed, Clara took it quietly and slipped it into her purse. Her shoulders sagged as if she'd just carried a boulder across the island. They walked out of the lobby without another word. No victory speech from Adrian. No dramatic exit. Just silence. Heavy, suffocating silence. I didn't watch them leave the island. I returned to my suite and packed my belongings. I had other matters to settle back home. The next evening, when I arrived at my house, the evidence of their visit was unmistakable. Mail scattered across the floor. A decorative bowl shattered. A dent in the wall from something thrown in anger. And on the kitchen table lay a torn open legal envelope, the one I'd left for them deliberately before boarding my return flight. Inside had been the full trust documentation. My house was now protected, transferred entirely into a structure no one, not Clara, not Adrian, could touch or manipulate. No court could force a sale. No signature from them could move it. It was mine until the day I chose otherwise. 3 hours later, I received a call from Stefan. He sounded older than he had just a week before. Robert. He swallowed audibly. I want to apologize for the way our son behaved, for the state of your house, for everything. I waited. He exhaled slowly. We did not know about the trust. We did not know how far things had gone. We thought you would always be there to help. It was wrong of us. I let his words settle before answering. You chose comfort over integrity. You let your son speak for all of you. And now you're dealing with the consequences. He had no argument. That night, Clara called. She didn't ask for money. She didn't beg. She just cried. Not the self-pitying cry of the past week, but something quieter, honest. Dad, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't see what I was becoming. I didn't see what he was turning me into. I'm leaving him. I can't stay in that life anymore. She paused, breath shaking. I don't want your money. I just want a chance to fix what I broke. I didn't respond immediately. Years of hurt, disappointment, and silence stretched between us. But there was something else, too. Something unmistakably human. So I told her to come by in 2 days. Alone. She did. And so began something fragile but real. Conversations. Small acts of responsibility. An honesty I had not heard from her since she was a girl. Not forgiveness yet. But the beginning of it. And the lesson, the one neither she nor Adrian nor anyone watching this story should forget, was simple. Respect is not automatic. Love is not a right. Family is not a shield against consequence. Sometimes the only way to teach someone the value of what they have is to let them lose it. And sometimes the only way to reclaim your own worth is to stop letting people treat you like you have none.